Hello everyone, welcome. Welcome to a short session, but a very important one from a life of AnyAUT perspective. So it's been almost 4 or 5 years since we came up with the first version, and since then we've been progressing on it, constantly implementing it, fine-tuning it, and I don't think that journey will stop. As to how this tool can evolve along with our test automation career journey. And I don't want to focus too much time on what it does and what it does and so on, team. But let's talk more of an implementation. What's important for you to know as a fact is AnyAUT is primarily a overall test automation management tool where I could do the entire documentation of all my modules, test cases, and in detail test steps. And each step containing enough content to say how the automation has to get executed as well. So while the users are writing it as manual test cases, this web UI as front end, they are always looking at no coding behind it and nothing to do with critical automation and so on. So this makes your test creation easy. And then we have the whole concept of reusable components. That's what we hear so far or heard so far on, be it a data-driven framework, be it a keyword-driven framework approach, or even how we look at page factory or page object model. These concepts have been put into the application to be able to handle it as how a manual test engineer or an automation engineer would like to maintain and run their tests. So that's about creations. Then we have as to at each instance, what is the test that I want to run? And then I can save and execute the tests and see my results. That's what my web front end does for me. Now you can always create a free account and play around, team, with the orange version. We are coming up with a new version, AnyAUT.com/x. It may not be the permanent domain, but at least we are building something on this. There are few changes on a web UI. I'm not so worried about that right now, but let's look at the automation engine itself. So the entire thing is built on Selenium and Java, team. That's what we use in the backend. So that's what the architecture is. I showed you the web front end, and now there's a backend core engine. That's all built on Selenium, Java, TestNG. Pretty large framework. And the source code goes something like this. So you have a bunch of programs to go through to be able to execute this framework. But what we have done is we have packaged it and we've put that together into a folder. And I'm going to give you all access to that and show you how you could execute this thing. I'm going to do a couple of quick things, team. One, where is this URL? I was uploading one document. Actually, complete. Okay, that's cool. Shareable link. Copy to the clipboard. So team, for all of you in the chat, I hope you can all hear me. Can you just say hello in the chat, please? And if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. I would love to take more questions as we go on. What can it do overall in terms of its larger capacity? AnyAUT tool we will address that. But first, let's look at the basic thing. I've put a link in your GoToWebinar, team, for all of you. That link is the one for our latest version. So we've been working almost like an agile project over the last few weeks and could manage to come up with this output. We've been doing a lot of this output work in our US morning times team. We didn't get a chance to show this in the evening. A lot of members, especially JPAC and so on, are at this time zone. So thought now is a great opportunity. So what is AnyAUT Excel version 1.4? It's just an improvement that we did. Slight bug fix, actually slight changes, modifications, and some critical bugs that we fixed. When you download the zip file that I sent to you on your chat, everyone, you would be able to see a file about 140 MB going down into your system. Are you all able to follow up and go along with me in parallel almost? Yes, no? Can I get a confirmation, please? And I would want you to try the execution at your end the way I show, so we can observe and see what we can do further on. Okay. Team, I'm not getting any responses on the chat. Please do not assume that, oh, maybe others are responding. Each of you must respond, please. Okay, great. So I'm assuming you're all in the process of downloading this 140 MB zip file. So once you do that, team, you can always take it anywhere. So what I'm going to do actually is there's a folder here called AnyAUT. Put it here and I'll unzip it, team. With Windows Explorer. I have that entire folder here. So I'm going to copy this, take it here, and put it. So the whole folder with a lot of structured subfolders, jar files, images, a lot of dependencies are there in that thing. So that is what we will be unzipping or decompressing. I did also update the drivers, so it should give you a good insight. So once you've done that, you can basically put that anywhere in your C drive or any drive, any folder is fine. You can cut and copy this. This specific folder itself is sufficient for you, team. There's nothing to install for you. Okay? So everything is packaged nicely for you in this folder. All you need to make sure you have the Java runtime environment to be able to execute these files. Yes, there should be zip file compatible with Mac. I mean, it's just a .zip format. You even in a Mac you should be able to unzip. Just try that, please. But the application itself, the AnyAUT framework works fine on Mac and Linux as well, apart from Windows. So now what we will do, team, I'm going to go into that folder itself, AnyAUT Excel version 1.4. Seeing this? Here is how this folder will look for the first time, everyone. What's important here is your main executable jar file, which I can double click and launch from here, or also run it from a command prompt. What is also important is this inbuilt demo.xls. So actually this is an older version. Team, please use this cautiously because it's a demo version. I don't want it to be corrupted anyway. Okay, so I've got data built for Chrome and Firefox in this, and I think this will run for both one after the other, team, the inbuilt demo. So let us say that I don't want to run all of it right now. There are a few like dashboard UI validation and sidebar menus. Let's try some of these only. I have 3 test cases selected for execution. So now for those of you who do not know much about AnyAUT Excel, I need to know team from this audience who knows this application decently well or not. So I'm going to run it. Launching this. I created only one poll question team. How well do you know AnyAUT? Nope, I don't know at all. Heard of it from me or a few of our sessions here and there. Have a decent idea what it is and what it does, or you've been working on it very actively. Be it a certified tester or developer, does not matter. If you already are hands into it, then that's your category. So please do fill up this poll. In the meanwhile, let me look at some chat messages. Okay, so great. One of the Suresh is able to unzip it onto the Mac as well. It's good. So the other question came up, do we keep the older version? So that's a good question. See, for example, as we went about this, in fact, the other folder also, here, there are multiple versions here. See, there's one version 1.2, 1.1, 1.3, 1.01 also. You don't need all of them, team. But if from each of those old versions, at least get your Excel content that you created. The framework we don't need, but you need the Excel content. Okay. So let's go back to our execution. Yeah. So we have expanded here. This is what we see. And oh no, actually, the poll must still be going on. We're done with the poll team, everyone. Just 70% of you have completed. Can I get everyone to fill in the poll so that I can close it and share the results? Speaking about something, what was it showing? Let me see if I can need to re-show that. Okay. Team, only 70% of you voted. I don't know the remaining 30% why they're not active. Your answers should go on the screen. Click on the screen, please. Okay, I'm going to close the votes, team. Don't know why some of you are not voting in. Close and let's share. So team, that's the distribution of the entire audience who's joined in live to look at who's doing what. Let me not put this. So 13% of you have not heard of it. 19% of you little bit. 44%, have a decent idea, and 25% have been working on it. So that's really good to know, team, at least from who have joined in today. So the intent is to give you the insight on what we're doing and how we're doing this. So did you see the results at your end, everyone? And now let me close this and come back here. So I was saying from older version, as it matures, keep your Excel sheets because that becomes your main content. So for those of you who are new into it, let me quickly mention, team. Give me 1 minute, team. I need to run and come back. And I'm back recording as well. So the intent is when you unzip, this is what you will see. The demo.xls has all the content. The same content that we could put totally on our AnyAUT application. Where was that? Here. All this content that I could put here, the same content could also be maintained in an Excel sheet. And in fact, I could do a good easy transfer here by exporting what I need. It downloads that Excel file. So in simple terms, with AnyAUT, I have my application. And please remember, my application could be sitting in a local machine, my desktop or my laptop. It could be sitting on a remote server, or it could be hosted on a cloud machine also. the execution where it can be happening. My application under test. What was I mentioning? I always take a step back before I talk about something. Okay. So the primary content that AUT takes to understand and execute that core engine that is there with Selenium and so on, the AnyAUT. AnyAUT here, application and test here, is a simple Excel sheet. AnyAUT as an engine, this whole code is built about understanding the content in an Excel format. Now, our humans have the advantage of putting this content or maintaining it through the cloud, which is our web front end, or through an Excel sheet itself. These two are the possible ways through which we could execute or do that. Any questions, team? You can't see the screen? 1 second. Thanks for feedback. Where, team? Can you all see my screen? How about now? Okay. I'm not sure if someone missed it because I got a message. Can you close the thanks for feedback pop up? I don't know where it came up. So this approach for us, where I can put it into a cloud, a web-based UI, or an Excel sheet for me to maintain, and then I have AnyAUT do that execution for me and drive it on the application and the test, do it on a local, remote, or a cloud again for execution. That is the journey. So to look at the same thing from an Excel template, it is divided into predefined formats where this is my first sheet, just has a basic detail about the application that I'm testing. It doesn't really use any information from this sheet, just as a placeholder for now. This is where I take one big application, the whole application, and divide them into modules. So that way I can individually look at that functionalities deeper into them, combine certain things, they make some sense together. So a few modules have been created for the purpose of a demo. And for each module, I can have many test cases. In this case, I think we've created almost one test case for each different modules. But in this here, there are two test cases in one module. But primarily, I can have hundreds of test scenarios for each one. And then the last one, which becomes important, at least to the basic AnyAUT user, is the test step sheet, where for every unique module, I have a test case, and each test case is nothing but a bunch of steps that a user performs. If a manually user has to do it and you have to write this test somewhere, looking at a functionality or a use story or use case, you would write similar instructions: log in, click on this, wait, click on that. What you would need additionally is test data, what you expecting, what is actual. So that is almost the same thing we are giving in this sheet. We are giving couple more instructions. One, a very unique word through which my AnyAUT knows what to do. So UDK has specific purpose, built-in keyword has. So knowing what they are and how they work will take a good 3-4 days. But at least to use them, basically, you'll understand. So we have modules, each module having test cases, steps, and all the elements that are there in the test data. So that constructs how my application looks when I want to execute it. So now this is set for Chrome and Firefox. So I don't think did I make any important change? I don't think so. So I'm closing it as is, just go back to executing it. So this is how you'll see the folder structure. You won't see results and log and all those things there yet. But let's double click on the AnyAUT Excel version 1.4, and it by default selects demo.xls, which right now is running for everything. Hey, actually, I did make the change. I selected only 3 tests, right? Remember? I didn't want all the test cases. Oops, this is not the one. Could be this one. Yes, so I didn't want this. UI validation. Actually, yes to this. No to this. No to this. Yes to this. And I have a choice team. I can run it on Chrome and nothing else. Actually, I can also run it only on Firefox, or I can run it on Chrome and Firefox. I mean, anything. This is just a sample right now. My test data is that way, but I can have different users to be each column. All I'll do is copy this and I'll put it here, and I'll say with Firefox now, this is Firefox 2, for example, and I'll give some other details here, and it would fail. But primarily, you're controlling what you want to give out here. So going back to my test sets, just selecting what it is. If you use the ones default, I think it'll do a full execution for a couple of good minutes. This I'll just save it as demo 2, and let's run this. So let's relaunch it so that we're not confused with anything. And demo.xls is selected. I just changed the name to demo 2. That's the new file. Yeah, and execute. So we've done a few things, team, and you'll notice the files getting created here. See the results, log, and the test output, which were not there earlier. They get created as the tests start to execute. And every time you run the test, you'll start seeing it coming here. So what my intent was for all of you to have this version and be able to at least run the demo at your end, and we're coming up with more spreadsheets that will give you a good ability to see how things work. Couple of differences here is when a user has to perform an action, it will first get highlighted in a gold. Then if action is performed correctly, a green. If there's an issue on something on that specific element, then it will become a red theme saying that, hey, you know what, there's an issue, it'll take a screenshot as well. Finds an element and it has an issue. So I think, did we see Firefox? I don't remember. I think that was the first test case only. We might have 3, so 4 in total team executions. This is Firefox for a different test case put together. In fact, the way I see it, AnyAUT itself is a good demoing tool also. It's almost like showing a video demo to your customer on how a particular software application or product works. So instead of be manually clicking it, I could have some predefined steps running live, and I could speak about it. It is what we're doing, it is what we can do, and so on. It's not just IT team, I believe even sales, management could use this. I believe so. So team, this was the only intent for the session. I wanted to share this to you. There are many Excels. If you are interested to participate in project activities related to it, especially the JPAC members, please ping us. There's an AnyAUT Excel group where we are actively trying to get the best versions out. Any questions for me, team? Let's look at the results once it's done. So I think this should be the final scenario to be getting executed. Even the demo, we actually wrote it on anyaunt.com/orange in a way to show the application itself. We've done one more on LinkedIn that looks very interesting, and we're doing a few things there. At the end of it, once all this is done, you would see your framework getting closed. If once executed, execution is done, it's completed, and you will see a results folder getting created with that name that we gave. In fact, when you're launching the framework, you have a choice to change that name, or by default, it will pick up the date and time stamp. And the result also will get created with that same name. So in this, what you would have, if there are no issues, a clean report with all passes, details of everything that has happened correctly, and an overall summary, how many steps, how long it took, pass percentage, the environment under which it executed, and so on. So the same thing, if an error comes up, it also helps us to debug better. So this demo 2, now for example, just say more to this. And this is which test case dashboard UI validation, right? Test case 2 dashboard UI validation. What I want to do here, team, is ting ting ting. I want to make an error. See, there are a lot of verified text here. If a text verification doesn't happen correctly, then what happens? So we're saying that test setup underscore modules is my reusable test data. Test setup underscore modules. There you go. So here it is expecting the word modules to be there in the menu bar in the tab. Now I'll change it to new modules. So it basically should throw me an error either for Chrome, but not for Firefox. So Chrome, it will work. It will throw an error. Firefox, it will not in this case. Let's just do it for Chrome and see what happens. So we're doing that for Chrome. And this, I'll just say no. It's only one test case. Maybe two test cases and rerun. So I personally, team, believe this exercise of constantly running, editing the spreadsheets and doing it, and debugging gives us a good control on executing regression, automated regression tests in a CI/CD environment. And it will give us the first baby steps to also get into automation, understand well what is element identification, then you can get into coding, framework implementation, creation, and so on. I have that's about it from my side. Are you all able to almost replicate the same at your end? Could I get a nod? If you have an issue, please let me know. You can also reach me offline on Skype team. I'll add you to the group. It's very, very active group as well. So there's a question as to we have to select the test case that we are executing, right? That is correct. So now we did select. So we'll see the results coming up. In fact, you can start opening or start looking at the results even before it starts to finish. So this still seems to be happening. Notice it's going on in the Firefox, but I'm already viewing the results. There's one more question, team. How do we run AnyAUT on the cloud? And you're doing it at your office. So here is what we do. I can take the entire AnyAUT as a platform and number one, put it onto something like GitHub. So like, for example, I have GitHub AnyAUT Excel here. This is with the source code. It's a private repository. And this can get into any of your remote machines through Jenkins to execute. Now in a cloud, if you're taking a dedicated server, then you have this zip to install them on that machine. And the execution can happen through that. It has to be distributed. We can also explore grid theme if it's a network of systems locally. So at this point, I think the only thing that we're looking at is the results file. It is all done, updated. So I have one test case that failed, and it tells me specifically that something failed where. And if I highlight, it says that, you know what, this is what it failed at, and that is highlighted in red. Why did it fail? It expected new modules as the test data, but the actual is modules. So that's the failure reason. Any further questions for me, please? I want you all to try this. I put that link on the chat as well. Give it a shot. And let us know if there's any further question. I'll be available. Team, I'm gonna pause for a couple of minutes to take any questions, please. So team, there were only a couple of questions. One was, can you make changes at your end? Absolutely, yes, team, and you can build very, very large scenarios. So some applications go into thousands. So this is one of large customer implementation where you see thousands of test steps, hundreds of test cases, almost 150 plus and so on. A lot of work goes into building them. It goes one row, one cell at a time. So all we need to do from our focus perspective is to use that Excel and start building them slowly one by one. You can change the application. You need to just point it to the new one and play it on. It will take you about 2-3 days to get well used to it. There was one more question point, I think. What was that? Okay, we don't have a dedicated server. Virtual machine grows or shrinks as we need it in QA and pre-production. Sorry, RTs. So virtual machines are much more preferred because you have control on executions and script. That's the reason. Great teams. So that's about it from my side. I just thought I'll quickly give you the intro into what we're doing into the AnyAUT world. You should now be able to, with that link that I gave you in Google Drive, I'll also put in the chat, get to download, unzip, and be able to get started with the latest version. The only limitation for this is it will do the entire execution like a full version, but only up to 500 test steps. It would cut there. AnyAUT, yes. So like I was mentioning, the application itself on the cloud, right? So I could write all of these tests, the same tests, instead of writing them in an Excel, I could maintain them here. At every given point, I can choose what tests I want to run, what modules, what test cases, with what data, that selection here, and get that specific execution from here. What we are adding as a new feature is instead of just exporting the test setup from cloud to a Excel, we want to see if we can also import it from Excel back to the cloud. So then you can sync them up. The advantage primarily with the cloud is, you know, we have everything stored centrally. We have a lot of restrictions on how a user does things. So user cannot make the standard mistakes that you would see. So for example, if a built-in keyword has to be spelled as clear text, it will be here. In Excel, we have to be overly cautious that we don't misspell any of these keywords that are there or anything that we can. and it gives you a lot of validations and a better way to do it in an easy way. It takes a little bit time. The advantage with an Excel is I could do some amazing things here. So, for example, all these test steps that are there, now see this whole thing is one test case, correct? I could just copy this as is. You go to the end of this sheet for now, paste it here, and call this test case maybe now 10. All right. Make sure that every step for this one has the same. That is how the mapping is done. It look at the module, it look at the test case ID and the steps. I'll keep everything the same. And maybe here, if I, what do I do? I actually already changed it there, right? The step modules, the test setup modules, that's the data. So here I'll say one time use, oops, and I'll say modules. Now I have a test case number 10 that looks exactly like number 2. So I'll come to all the test cases, copy this, put it here, and say this is my test case 10. All right. So my interest is now only to run these two again and see what is happening. In one I gave a value, the other it is using a variable. So I have variations. In this case, I'm only showing a small variation, but you could do a large set of variations to it and rerun it. So this is how we don't have to sit down in front of it, manually execute it each time. The labor work will go in to build those Excels for the initial sprint regression. That mellows down. Is this session going to be on YouTube or ITLN? Yeah, I'll put it on YouTube for now. Okay? So a lot of changes to the web app itself is coming our way. And as we learn from client implementation in the overall DevOps CI/CD process and how we automation teams fit in, we'll be able to take a good, take this tool to a next level in implementation. So let's see, once these two test cases are done, I think that's the end of the closure. Oh, there's one more. I think this is the second one. The first one still may have the error. Let's look at the results already. So we don't have to literally wait. If I have like hundreds or thousands of test cases, I'm not going to be waiting for that. The report will keep getting auto-updated. So the first one failed as we expected, exactly at that place for that specific reason. And I have a screenshot that proves it. And when I send my results to a team member and so on, I don't send just the HTML file. I send the entire folder. Okay. So let's refresh this again. It's still executing, I believe. Once the next test case gets executed, this will get updated. After every test case, your report, this is an extent report that we should execute. So updated. So let's refresh and see now. So there you go. So my test case 10 passed, and in this case, modules text, what I gave, whatever I gave as information passed. So not giving, when it passes, I'm not really giving any screenshots or extra information. But when it fails, I want to be precise as to why, where, how, so it can help us to debug. and that's the goal, and that's where the tool will get a good acceptance in that overall ITT. Team, that's it from my side. Just wanted to share this with you. Play around. Let me know how it works. Any questions, anyone? Did I hear someone's voice? No. Anyone needs to speak, be unmuted. Please raise your hand. I could do that. Or we can continue interacting Skype in these sessions. Great, so team, play around with it, and I'll keep sending you more regression exercises that you can execute with it. Thank you all. Bye then. Take care.